Okay, now for Carlos. So Carlo, by the way, welcome everyone. Those who I haven't welcomed, welcome to our little art family. Okay, so same thing that I showed you last time, Carlo. It's adding those little details that sort of expand the realism just a touch. I know you're working from an anime um, background, but it's nice to add in those extra little details for like vanity's sake, or so that you can really appease to more of your audience. So I darken the upper lid, and I'm going to lighten up the bottom area here to make it look like the eyes are wet. You want to make them look like they're cartoon. You don't want to be captured into the world of realism. That's fair to ask for if you don't want to make it too realistic. But you want to make it realistic enough that people believe it, that they don't disrespect it and call it, oh, that's just a cartoon. When you make things realistic, people see it as very different. I'm sure people don't act the same when they see a cartoon show and seeing a live action film. Things are very different. And the same thing happens when something is half realistic. There's a certain degree more respect to it. Not respect as in, honor or whatever, but artistic recognition, let's say. And it's better that you serve your audience in that way than just giving them half or almost none. Then you'll just be categorized into the anime category. So when you add stuff that's very soft and very delicate and very realistic, your audience triples, because I don't even know, might triple by, like duplicate, or expand by 4 or 5. I don't know. I don't know the word quadruple. I don't know. But if you really entertain that degree of realism, people will respect your artwork more. So right now I'm trying to work with the light source that you had. I'm trying to keep that purple tone that you have the same all around here. And then I'm going to get that red, that really yummy red, and I'm going to put it near the areas where the shadows cut off. So over here, I'm going to put it under her eyelid. Over here and over here. Do you see that realism that points out? That really sticks out, When you have this white, it looks like you're outlining. You don't need this white around the lips. You really, really don't. Probably think you do. Sorry. But you really don't need it. Because what it's doing is just getting in the way of your style. And it's not allowing you to achieve that level of realism. I'm going to get some of that pink into her eyelid, and I'm going to get some of that pink also into her ear, so we have a duplication of the color somewhere else. I'm also going to get into a color layer and get some of that blue of her eye and really enhance it, because it seems a bit dyed down. And throwing that blue in, do you see the life that's breathed into her? It's a very, very nice color. I'm going to get some purple too and put it on the rim of her eyes. Just on the inner area here and here, to really keep that color palette moving. Okay, I'm going to sort of dye that down just a touch. Alright, and then saturate. It really helps to bring your character to life. There's a very subtle pink that is on the inner corner of the eye. I don't know if you guys noticed that. On a waterline, you can get some of that pink and place it there, so that it looks like her eyes are fleshy and real. So it's a very like pastel pink. It's very nice. You can also get some of that purple and put it on the outer corner here and here, to make for a nice eyeliner effect. And then some light on the inner corner of the eye. And do you see that realism? When you achieve realism like this, you'll get hired in no time for card art, for games, for concept art, because they want that realism. They want people to respect their game. So what they do is they hire artists that can really, really give them that degree of realism. Okay, Do you think the background light is too bright? That has a lot of brightness all around, and because the brightness is so uniform, I can't say it's too bright because you have the same white everywhere. If you were to dye down one of these whites, you're going to have to dye down the rest too. So all I'm going to do is try to create some form, which is shadow. And I'm going to try to make this light here seem like, make her hair seem like it's shiny, because sometimes when you have too much light, you get a problem, which is it looks like it's washed out, like there's way too much light to exist in this kind of situation, unless her hair glows, you know. So what you can do is dye down some of those areas, similar to what I've done here. So because that light is in that area, I'm going to cause some shadows here so that it seems like they're facing away from the light, and that way the light makes sense, because before that they were a touch too light. You know, everything seemed like it glowed very beautifully. Tones, I'll lighten that up just a touch, and then on to highlights, and on this outer place here, add in some light. Okay, and you have this nose shadow, which seems to start too late. The nostril starts here, but the nose shadow starts somewhere near the middle of the nose. Make sure the nostril, the shadow starts where the nostril is. Nostril is a funny word. And that it's darkest wherever it's closest to its subject. So when a shadow is close to the object that's casting it, it gets darker near that area. So this is close to the nose. This is close to the eye. And nightness. And this is close to here. And then I'm going to place some dodge on the hair. Do you see it's so bright already? There's not much brighter that I could make it. Want some light here, a little bit on the things, and that's it. So where it was before was a bit cartoony, if you can see. It seemed like this were the preliminary sketches, and after, things were a bit more realistic. They popped out at you. And one last thing, get the color layer. Even though her lips are dark, there's this nice little cherry color that happens when lips go really, really dark. And it's that dark, but you add in that red. That red will really give you that realism too. And add a bit of, overdraw it over the line of the lips so that it looks like it's smudged a little bit. And all of a sudden you have this beautiful cherry lip color. Also, don't forget to add in blush on the other cheek. There you go. Zoomed in. Flatten. Save, and we'll do a before and after. Before. After. Things look a lot more alive. Okay? Before. After. It's really about saturating the colors exactly where they need to be saturated. Not saturating them everywhere, only in the areas they really need them. Okay? Also for the armor, you can really play with the shadows there as well. Some parts of the armor aren't going to be visible because there's a shadow of her neck. And just like we did with the other artist that we were looking at, the other work, is try to reflect some of that purple onto the armor that she's wearing. So some of that purple should be on her armor. It should be on the chest area here, this chest plate, whatever it is, on the shoulder, so that the color is unified. You're unifying all the palette, all the colors of the palette. You're not having purple only in one area. You're having it everywhere else. And this is something that you would see at a waiting screen or some sort of character thing on a game. And if you entertain this level of realism, you will get good feedback. I promise. make sure you're spending that extra time to render the work that you do. I'm just going to darken the corners of the lips to add that plump effect. Save and send back. Carlo. So I hope that helped, Carlo. I really recommend you take in some sort of realism, lessons or studies so that you can apply them to your work and really get some good feedback and get yourself hired by Wizards of the Coast or whoever. Okay? Does anyone else have anything for me to look at? This was a pretty quick critique session. Night, Gabriella. Thanks for coming. Oh, Jay did? Okay, Jay, did you send it? Yeah, she did. He or she. I don't know. Okay, so this is more storybook, so I can't really do much with lighting and making it too dark, but imagine it like this. The only light source that we have is that light source out there, and so we don't really have a light source anywhere else. And so what you need to do is darken these areas here. They're really, really, really bright. I'm not sure what kind of file this is, PNG. And then because the light source out there is... What's going on with this? 1 second. The light source is from the sun, so that's the only place that we will get flowing into the sea. And what we're going to have on him is a silhouette. So, darken. What's going to happen to him is he's going to go darker. And even though you might not want him to go darker, if you do, that realism will be there. Very nicely. Okay, layer. I know it looks a bit weird at first, but after you apply some basic value changes, it begins to look a bit more realistic. And again, realism added to your work will help enhance your work. It won't belittle your work. It won't destroy your work. There's no such thing unless you're in the uncanny valley and no one wants to be there. So this guy's face is going to be not blue because part of the fish, this glowing octopus, is going to be on his face. So there's not going to be any shadow there, but there is going to be shadow everywhere else. I'm going to bring some of that light and help form out his face, give a little bit of glare. Keep things bright though, but make sure that you have the right kind of lighting. When the lighting is there, things make a bit of sense. And you have this halo around him. You don't need this halo. It's okay. And I'm going to throw some of that light that this octopus is casting around the octopus. And a bit here and here. So that it looks a bit more magical and glowy. And that he looks perspective to the situation, which is a silhouette. The light is behind him, and therefore we're going to see the light from behind him. I'm also going to get the soft brush and cause some glares and distortions so that it looks a bit soft and glowy. Do you see that? How it looks very realistic? And bubbles, these bubbles that you have, make sure they're not too big. Make a whole new layer for the bubbles. If you want to learn how to make bubbles, I'll just delete these bubbles that you made. I'm sorry. But I'll show you how to make bubbles that are a tiny bit more convincing than these. I really recommend you apply these. You'll just see your favorites, you know, like skyrocket. Why is that? People associate when people associate realism with a painting, they begin to like it, and it's very convincing for them. So the more realism that you have, the more the better feedback you'll get. The more people will relate to your work. So the fish are fine, but the bubbles are a bit too big and they're not bubbly. They're more foamy. They're getting in the way. So you have to make a whole new layer for bubbles. Find a good tutorial on bubbles. There's so many fun tutorials. Like I can just sit all day reading tutorials about how to make bubbles and different ways to make bubbles on Photoshop. It's ridiculous. But let me show you a nice fun way to make bubbles. So get your lasso tool. Go to the second set of tools on the list. Go to elliptical marquee. Keep your finger on the shift so that you get a perfect circle. Get the white and drop tool in it and delete that. Get an eraser brush. Make sure the eraser is a circle soft brush. If this stupid brush set decides to load. And make sure it's like on 50% and erase only the middle area. And then get that white again and paint there. And erase the middle area of that. And then get it there and erase the middle area of that. And then draw a gentle little, very, very simple and very girly, if I can say. That's a mean word, but very fun bubble style. And now that you have that, you can just duplicate it as many times as you want. Make sure you have a backup file. Go into the filter, shrink your brush, and then sort of mold it to be a bit more, what's it called? Now you have if you go to the liquify tool, you'll be able to mold it around. You can also mold it with the V tool. Just click on the select tool, click on V, and then click on the control button, and then you can mold it, or click on the moldy button thingy here and just reshape it. Make as many circle ones as you want. Keep some circle shaped. Shrink them, expand them. Make sure some are near his mouth, and that way you have a cleaner looking bubble than having a messy looking bubble. So you can apply that everywhere else, and it all started from this original circle one. And you can duplicate this one as many times as you want and reshape them so that they can look a little bit more crisp. And what this does is it gives you automatic detail. So so you don't really have to go in there with a tiny little brush and paint these tiny little bubbles. What you can do is just paint them in a large size and then shrink it, and then you have detail. See that? That's a nice little tip, and it gives your image a lot more value. Okay, so I'll decrease that. I'll leave the bubbles to you, even though I'd love to do them, but they take some time. Flatten the image, and then I'll post this on YouTube so that you can see how I did the bubbles. And now I'm just going to frame the bottom area here so that the glow looks more glowy. If you know what if you know what I'm saying. Okay, and then I'm gonna get one last fun little thing. So I'm gonna go to color. I'm gonna get a yellow so that we can get the sunlight in there. It's gonna be a golden yellow. Very, very fun. Very, very childish, and I love that. It's very pretty. And I'm gonna paint that in there with a very low opacity, just gently enough that the water turns green, just a little bit. Because green and blue make it yellow. Just a tiny little bit to bring in that Ponyo style color scheme. Okay? And remember that thing that I did with the edges? I'm not sure if you were there, but I'm going to sort of try to give this octopus some transparency. And give him some sort of like glowy parts, as if he's bioluminescent. I'm just outlining the outer areas. I'm using the dodge tool for this. I'm also going to use some dodge tool on the lower part of his. Actually, I'm going to use a brush. I'm going to bring in some of this really bright orangey pink and put it on his eye, so it seems like his eye is reflecting that color on the octopus, and he's like mesmerized by it. Okay, do you see that? He looks like he's underwater now. So, before, after. Do you see the atmosphere, Jay? See the change of character, the change of depth. And this is all stuff that I did in front of you. I didn't do any magic hocus pocus. A simple rules. The light is behind him. It's going to cause a silhouette. If you're standing in front of a light and you're trying to take a picture of your friend, you're going to get a dark silhouette of the person. It's going to look like a shadow. And that's a rule. So we applied that with a gentle blue. We got a blue, not a black, a blue. And we outlined him with it, covered his body with it. We took away some of those the bubbles. I recommend adding a bunch of bubbles near the top. We shadowed down the lower half, because he's underwater, so there's no light under there. You know, the further down you go. And I saturated the octopus. I brought in the dodge tool. I applied some of that color onto his face, so it seems like his face is glowing. I brought in some yellow finally near the feet where the sun is. That makes the water look green. And that's it. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, subsurface scattering would be nice. You can get a good texture for that too. You can also make a silhouette around him where his shirt is transparent, which is really nice too. You can get that as if his shirt is see-through and we can see his the silhouette of his body. And that's a little detail that you could add, which I think is adorable. But your call. I kind of like it like this. Okay? So I'll send that back to you. If you're on my DeviantArt, if you're on my Skype, I can send it to you there. If you don't have my Skype, you can add my Skype to be part of the class so that you can get these announcements regularly. So that you can know when I'm streaming and when you want to apply these things. I really recommend, Jay, that you apply all of these to your painting. It's a very cute painting. It's very fun. You know, sometimes I ask myself, why don't I paint stuff like this? I'm so boring. The stuff I paint is so unbelievably boring. Like, if you guys see my gallery, oh my god, mountains and sky. And it's Mate too. It's not like I'm actually painting it, but whatever. So, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for those who left and didn't get to say goodbye. Bear, Bwahahaha, Carlo, Jay, Lone, Not Full, Nefis, Pietro. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. You can add my Skype to be a part of the class, and have a great evening. Bye bye, guys.